We thank you for the opportunity to gather together in service to our students, families, educators, and community. We are grateful that even during the summer months, learning continues through camps, enrichment programs, academic support, and the many opportunities that help students grow. We ask your blessing on every student participating in our summer programs. May they discover new strengths, build confidence, form meaningful friendships, and return to school encouraged and prepared for the year ahead. Grant wisdom, patience, and renewed energy to the students, teachers, staff, administrators, and volunteers who have dedicated their summer to serving our children. This week, we will also celebrate those students who have reached the milestone of summer graduation. We give thanks to their perseverance, resilience, and determination as they begin the next chapter of their lives, guide their steps, open doors of opportunity, and remind them that their future is filled with purpose and hope. Bless this board as we make decisions that impact our district. Grant us wisdom, humility, discernment, and unity. Help us to always place the needs of students at the center of every decision and discussion, and to serve with integrity, compassion, and a spirit of collaboration. May all that we do tonight bring honor to our community and create opportunities for every child to thrive. Amen.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 13th, 2026 Dorchester District 2 Board Meeting. At this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie, seconded by Ms. Bates. Any question or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. All right, we will begin our evening with our district highlights, and we've got Mr. Brian Bohannon. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Dr. Wimberly, Mr. Doherty. We never stop celebrating around here. We're still celebrating things from last school year. In the upcoming meeting, we're going to have even more highlights. But to celebrate this one from Somerville High School, I'm pleased to bring to the microphone in his first official duty as our new Assistant Director of CTE, Mr. Jack Manser.
Board members, staff, and community members, as the proud new director, I'm excited to be here tonight and to get to share some awesome news with you. Please join me in congratulating the Somerville High School Rocket League and Super Smash Brothers esports team, along with Coach Mr. William Griggs and Principal Michelle Leviner. These teams swept the 2026 South Carolina Scholastic Esports State Championships, and the Super Smash Brothers team also demonstrated their talent on the national stage, earning 8th place in the nation's top 64 regional champion player versus cup. While these students excel in competition, they also are developing critical career-ready skills such as collaboration, communication, strategic thinking, and problem solving that will serve them long after graduation. Their remarkable accomplishments reinforce Dorchester 2's commitment to CTE and esports, and we're excited to build on that success in the next school year, carrying our pilot that we had together at River Oaks last year to other middle schools in the 26-27 school year. Again, congratulations to you guys, coaches, staff, and families on this incredible achievement. We're proud of you, and we look forward to continued growth and success.
Congratulations, students. This concludes tonight's board highlights.
All right, next on our agenda this evening, we have our public comments, And we do not have any public comments on agenda items. So we will move to the next item on our agenda, which is our board committee reports. We will begin with our policy committee. Ms. Bates.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We have several policies up for second reading today. They are as follows: IKA, Grading and Assessment Systems; IKA, Grading and Assessment Systems, says it twice; IKADD, Content and Credit Recovery. I just want to make sure that's the same. That's okay. One's the rule, and then one's IKADD. Yeah, Content and Credit Recovery. Sorry, I was looking at the slide, not the thing. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bates. As this is coming out of committee at this time, we do not need a second. So are there any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. All right. Next, for our board committee reports, we have our finance committee. Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Nothing to report. We did not meet before the meeting here. Just waiting on the finalization of our budget for next year and discussions around capital needs, which will be coming up. We'll also be preparing the schedule for the finance committee meetings for the coming year.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, next we have our facilities committee. Mr. Farnsworth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we will have a full facilities report a little bit later in the board meeting. And then in addition, board members, over the next few weeks, we will be finalizing our calendar for the facilities committee for the next year. So please be on the lookout for dates. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And next we have our governmental and community relations committee. Mr. Lee, Ms. Bates, do you have anything to report out this evening?
Just a brief update. We are trying to advance the ball and kind of taking a look back at the budget process that is used and whatnot. We wanted to schedule a meeting with our county administrator and our county CFO to just kind of go through understanding better what the data is and how the process is used and whatnot. So we're working to get that meeting set up sometime in the August timeframe.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on, next item on our agenda is our board chair's report. I do have some upcoming events to remind you all of. Tomorrow, we have our summer school graduation. That is at 10 a.m. at the Summers Corner PAC. Hope to see you there. July 27th, we have our summer board retreat scheduled from 12 to 5 here at the district office. And Mr. Doherty and I have begun working on that agenda, but it is not finalized. So if you have, I know several of you have already shared things, and so I have that already. But if anyone has anything additional to share, please feel free to send that to me. And then finally, we have the SCSBA School Law Conference coming up in August, the 29th through the 30th. So if you have not done so already and you do wish to attend, please let Wanda know. Any questions? Any of that or any other upcoming events? Okay. All right, great. We will continue with our agenda. We will move to our next item, was just our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and the rest of the board. We have several items to go over with you tonight. And our first item is our elementary summer reading camp, and I will have Mrs. Jessica Farnsworth, or excuse me, Miss Katie Barker, come up and talk to you a little bit about our summer reading camp and things that are going on in our district this summer.
Good evening. Miss Jessica Farnsworth will be up momentarily, but I first wanted to just share a brief glimpse at all of our summer programs that we have had, which you can see is on one slide, a lot to put on there, but we just kind of wanted to give you a quick update. First, before I go over numbers, I want to say a huge thank you, and thank you, Ms. King, for the attention for the staff that goes into running everything that we do for summer, for students and their families over the summer. You know, we all know that school doesn't end for our kids on the last day of school. We do a lot of things over the summer to really support students and families. So I want to say thank you to our team that has worked with those schools and the programs that they've had, the administrators, the teachers, the counselors, every staff member across the district that gave up time. And yes, they get paid, but it's still a ton of time over the summer to make all of these programs and things possible. So before I go over numbers, I just wanted to give them the credit that they deserve for that. So Ms. Farnsworth is going to be here in just a second to kind of go in deep with you about summer reading camp, but I just wanted to share with you some numbers for all of our programs, starting with our elementary summer reading camp, which is, if you'll remember, is a requirement from Read to Succeed. And this year we served first, second, and third grade students, and you can see the breakdown there and this is number of students that attended since we wrapped up the last day of summer reading camp last Thursday, for a total of 367 students across the district. For middle school summer recovery, a total of 268 students attended, and this is for students that need to earn recover credit that they didn't earn for some of the classes that they took. So some of those 268 students might have needed one content area, some of them might have needed 4. So far more number of quarter recovery there, or summer recovery there, but of those 268 students, a total of 262 recovered everything that they needed, and we still have 6 students that are working within their individual schools. Even though we've closed summer recovery, where students are going every day, we do still have 6 students that are working towards that, and we're just handling that on a case-by-case basis. For high school, we have everything that we do for high school, from dual enrollment classes, SC virtual, content recovery, all of the summer school things, for a total of 1,843 students. And those students are taking 3,216 total courses. There's a star there because even though our high school summer school ended last Thursday, virtual SC, dual enrollment, those kinds of things are still going on and will be going on throughout the summer. So by the time this all wraps, when school starts, that number may be up or down a little bit just based on that. And then, of course, we have our LEAP Summer Camp, which takes place across the district. And in June, we served a total of 469 students. And in July, it's still going on, but through the end of last week, we were at 356 students. So lots, if you added all of those numbers up, lots going on at our schools across the district. So we just wanted you to have a brief glimpse of that. And then before Ms. Farnsworth goes over summer reading camp, Ms. Jakes is going to go over extended school year numbers, which is the program that we offer for our students with IEPs that need some support over the summer. Yes, ma'am.
The 4 that did not complete, I'm with, we're giving them extra time to get this work done. We have 4 that did not complete. So are these being completed by a certain date, or do they just whenever they get it done?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, well, no, not until they get it done. They have to, depending what classes they go into and where they will start next school year is dependent on what they finish. So no, it's just continued work over the summer. And those, please, like I said, some of those students had a lot of work to do, and I don't want to get too far into this, but we also, it was a question from the board and from Teacher Forum last year. Our middle schoolers participate throughout the year in what we call quarter recovery. Students that didn't take advantage of that fully, that's what they're doing in the summer recovery program. And we also made it far more rigorous based on some teacher feedback from last year that students weren't completing some of the work, and then the quarter recovery wasn't necessarily as challenging as the class was. So we worked with our content specialists and our curriculum writers to make some changes there, and that those changes are starting at summer school moving forward. So what if you had a lot to recover, it would have been a lot for you to do in that amount of time. So they will work through that through the duration of summer, and they have to be showing active work on that so that they're working on that, and they're working closely with their each school or principal on that. But no, it has to be completed before school starts.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions regarding these numbers before I pass over the microphone to Ms. Jakes? Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. So for extended school year, we had 5 weeks of instruction for students. The majority of the students attended from June the 8th to July the 9th. But we do have some students who attend what we call individualized ESY sessions. So because of various conditions or student needs, we have some students who participate via a session with an actual teacher, and they don't attend like one of the campuses. This school year, we were hosted at Flowertown, East Eddystone Middle School, and Eagle Nest Elementary School. And we were able to serve preschoolers through high school age students, and we served all students who met eligibility criteria for extended school year, which is determined by the IEP team. And we served students in the area of either academics, functional, and or communication needs. You can see there that we had 252 students who were rostered to attend ESY, and 186 actually attended sessions throughout the summer. So any questions for me about that?
And just one other thing, Mrs. Jakes, the one other thing that not all students, when they are offered this, is to make up minutes or compensatory services, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we, once again, the IEP team determines that students are eligible for those services, and they're required because the student has demonstrated some type of regression over the course of the school year. It's typically after breaks, so after winter break, after spring break, those kinds of things. And so we do have some students who choose not to attend.
Well, thank you for all your work and your team of getting that set up, so thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Jessica Farnsworth, who is our Assistant Director for Elementary, and she's going to talk about our summer reading camp and kind of go over some things.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Wimberly, Mr. Daugherty, and the board. Thank you for having me here tonight. We just wrapped up summer reading camp this past Thursday, so I'm excited to share some of our progress and some successes and all the work that went into the 5 weeks of summer reading camp. I know Ms. Hodge was here at the very beginning of summer reading camp and shared some of the numbers, the first 2 columns. So I wanted to bring an update so that you could see the number of students who actually attended. So as you know, we have students that are invited, and then we have students that are registered, and then after that first day or the first 5 weeks, we can show the number of students who actually attended. And so for first grade, Ms. Barker already shared these numbers. We had 139, 116, 112 students with a total of 367 students actually attending. And this was up from 287, I think that says, from last year. So we did invite more students this year. If you can remember, this is the first year that the State Department required us to invite first graders. It is not a requirement for us to invite second graders, but we have for several years always felt that not to wait till they're in third grade. Early intervention is best. So we've always invited second graders. Next year, it will be a part of the law to invite second graders, but we're already a step ahead. So just wanted to share some an answer to a question that came up at the beginning was, how do we know that the program is working? How do we know that there is success? We have 11% of our third graders that are still coming back on SC Ready as below, according to Read to Succeed guidelines. And Ms. Hodge shared that, some of those students, it could be because of their IEP. It could be that they're new to the country and just learning to speak English. We do have a transient population. So we could have students that are walking into DD2 schools for the very first time, maybe in January, February, or March, and then they're sitting down to take the SC Ready. And so we don't have a lot of impact on their instruction for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. And so as that data becomes unembargoed, we're going to dig into that 11% and find out, what is the pattern? What are we looking at for that 11% to find out, why are there still 11%? Yes, it was a celebration. Yes, we went down 2%, which is great. We always want to see those numbers trending that way, but we don't want to just settle for that. We're going to dig in deeper. So once we have that, we will be able to look a little bit deeper and figure out why we still have students. Always the goal is to have that number in the single digits and continuing to decline. But every student that walks into summer reading camp has an individualized decision tree. We call this our decision tree. They They are given an assessment, and from there, we can create an individualized path for their instruction. So a student might be walking in and maybe they have needs in phonics. Somebody might have needs for phonemic awareness. Somebody may have needs for comprehension. But every student, all of those students that attend summer reading camp receive individualized instruction. And so our teachers work with them on those specific skills. Each week, they are progress monitored on those skills. And so we can look for an increase in that data. The assessment that they receive matches the instruction that they're receiving. We send those reports home to try to keep parents informed on what's going on, but also the teacher can look at that data and say, okay, wait, what we're doing isn't working, or what we're doing is working and we're great, and we can move them into a new level of the path. And so it's constant monitoring, monitoring and adjusting our instruction. So, as always, we love to celebrate and look at the happy students and the pictures and all of the wonderful things. So, our students spent 20 days receiving very intensive intervention in reading and writing. They worked together, a lot of collaborative learning. They had targeted daily small groups, research and writing, phonics. They were working to they worked together, but also independently. We interviewed and selected teachers that had their LETRS certification, that were Read to Succeed certified, the best of the best, and we're truly very lucky because to staff summer reading camp, yes, they get paid. I know we keep mentioning that, but whether you get paid or not, they are still giving up that very valuable, precious summertime. So we can see our students working hard here, producing amazing writing, working very hard to collaborate with each other, present to each other, building those oral speaking skills. Some proud smiles when they got to present their research. They presented to other teachers, to the community members that came in, to the librarian and other school members. It's very important to us that if we're going to call it summer reading camp, which is what the state calls it, that our kids that come to summer reading camp feel like they're engaged in fun experiences. And also with these experiences, it gives them opportunities to have shared writing and shared experiences that they can write about, they can talk about to build that the oral fluency and the conversations with each other. So this year we brought in two presenters, one presenter at Eagle Nest and one presenter at Flowertown from Tideman Park Environmental Education Center. Hopefully nobody's squeamish about seeing snakes. But they brought in their reptiles. The students got to see the snakes and the gators, and it just gave them this fun educational experience. They could tie it back to their research and their reading. And they did get to touch the snakes and the alligators. And for some of our students, this is, they're not going to museums, they're not going to parks to get to experience like this, so we brought the experience to them. So that was Rockin' Reptiles. We also have our schools, our district Star Lab, so we brought the Star Lab to them. And so they did a day with the Star Lab to bring in that astronomy and space experience. We also did a final celebration splash day. The kids are giving up their summer in a lot of ways, and they're doing very intensive reading instruction for 7 hours a day, so we wanted to make sure that they had some fun too. Just wanted to point out this teacher, Ms. Simmons, who challenged her students if they could meet their MAP goal at the end, that they could tattoo the teacher. So she was covered in tattoos because her students worked so hard to meet their MAP goals. We are very excited because the State Department reached out to us and said that they would like to highlight our summer reading camp. So you can see here one of the media liaisons, their social media, I don't know what you call it, like experts came down, and he videoed our students working at summer reading camp with media releases. They were allowed to be interviewed, and he videoed them working with a teacher, and that will be highlighted on the State Department's Facebook page. They're going to also send it to us so that we can share it with the families. The students felt like celebrities, so of course, as always, when he was done with the video, they were leaning over and said, okay, let us see. We want to see how we look. So they did a great job, and a thank you to Ms. Cross, who was the teacher that was videoed. All of this looks like a lot of fun. We are held very accountable by the State Department, and we had an audit. So our state liaison, our literacy liaison, came and she audits using this monitoring tool. We have this tool at the beginning, so we know what we're preparing for. We have this rubric, and we know what we're looking for. And so the audit was a success. As you can see in the majority of the ratings, we came back as full evidence, which is the goal. There was only one section where we came back as some evidence, which is okay with us because we know that we're always looking for ways to grow. The one area that we are going to work on for the future is student and teacher engagement. What we do find is that these students have never been together. They're thrown into a classroom with quick 5 weeks. They don't know each other as well, so it takes them a little longer to warm up to each other, to warm up to their teacher. It's like the first day of school all over again, but it's also on fast forward. So it takes them a little longer to get to know each other. And so when our observer was there, they were all very, very quiet. Plus there was a stranger in the room. So they were on their best behavior. But on the monitoring tool, engagement looks like noise, loudness, students participating. And so, we're going to work on that, just making sure that the students know that to be an active part of their own education means that they're raising their hands and they're ready to participate. Like I said, though, we're always looking for ways to grow. So as you know, Summer Reading Camp is tied to third grade retention through the Read to Succeed Act for some of our third graders. So this year we had 36 students based on Read to Succeed based on the SC Ready who were required to attend Summer Reading Camp. Of those 36 students that were required to attend, we had 14 that met that 186 at the end of Summer Reading Camp. And that left us 16 that did not. So we had 16 students that are up for retention based on that score. We did have 6 students who chose not to participate in Summer Reading Camp, even though they were required. So those 6 students are automatically retained. A couple of them, the parents just felt like they wanted their student to be in third grade again. They felt like retention was the best option. And so it wasn't a matter of just not wanting to participate or just opting out. It was a matter of feeling that another year in third grade was what's best for their student. So in all, we have 22 students who are up for retention, with 6 of them automatically being retained. So we have 16 students that are going to be up for retention. However, there is a next step. And the next step is that there is a parent appeal process. Those 16 students, the families were notified today. Since we had the data on Thursday, those families were notified today that their student could possibly be retained. And the parents have an opportunity within the next 2 weeks to appeal. The process is that they will email Mr. Doherty. I know he has already received a couple. And they will also email myself and the school principal. And after the 14 days, once we have all of the appeals, we meet and we review the students' data. We look at all the other factors because we know that it's not just about a test score. And so we look at attendance and behaviors, grades throughout the year. And then those students could possibly be granted what we call a superintendent's good cause exemption. And they would be placed in 4th grade and be tracked with an independent reading plan. If not, if the committee and Mr. Doherty decide that they need to be retained, then they would stay in 3rd grade. To give you an idea, last year was the first year that this was an option for families and for us, and so we had 7 parents submit appeals, and we granted 5 superintendent's good cause exemptions. Whether they're sent to 4th grade or not, they are tracked, and we meet with them. We meet with the team that's responsible for them. Those 5 students that were granted the appeals, we met every 6 weeks to look at their progress in 4th grade. And I was happy to report that most of them were making amazing progress. A couple of them ended up qualifying for an IEP, which then goes to show that, there were other factors that were at hand in their reading difficulties. So some more next steps. We're always reflecting. The more you reflect, the more you learn. And so once the final retention appeal decisions have made and been communicated with families and schools, then we will do a final PowerSchool upload. Again, all of this is accountability for the state. So we do a post-camp survey and we do a final PowerSchool upload so that the State Department can track all of this data as well. They look for patterns across all the school districts so they can see, what's happening across the state. We'll get that final SRC growth data. We'll be able to report back and look at, what was the average growth of our students from the beginning of summer reading camp to the end of summer reading camp. It's not an easy pull from MAP, like we could normally just pull a report and tell you right now what the average growth was. But because NWEA doesn't recognize summer MAP as a window, it's going to take us a little bit longer than normal. And since summer reading camp just ended Thursday, we didn't have time to do that. But we also will hold a reflection meeting with our coordinators, everybody that's involved in planning summer reading camp, and already start looking ahead to next summer for our first, second, and third graders. So special thank you. We had 3 coordinators. We had Courtney Bruffy, Paula Luciano, and Susan Kephart. A big thank you to Mr. Taylor and Ms. Brown for your school to be used for summer reading camp and ESY is a big deal because everything else has to be put on hold. And facilities knows this. They can't strip the floors. They can't clean the carpets. They can't really do anything because it is like running a full school. And so I actually went by both sites today and it was like all hands on deck. They were painting and waxing the floors and cleaning carpets, and you would never believe that just on Thursday it was full of children. But so thank you to those principals for allowing us to use their sites. Thank you to Kim Boyea. She's our admin assistant in curriculum instruction, and she is amazing at organizing the materials, transportation, food services, SROs, nursing. It takes a village. We couldn't do it without them. They also worked through that 4th of July week when a lot of people are off. A special thank you, obviously, to our teachers and our staff that work through the summer, and to our families for trusting us with their children during the summers. It's really hard for some families to then send their child to a school that they don't really know, with people they don't know. So we appreciate the families that did send their students and trust us to work with their kids, knowing that it is what's best for them.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and you answered one of them because I was wondering whether or not transportation was provided.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so what about those students that basically chose not to come? Are you all looking at their first quarter and seeing, are they already showing deficiencies? Well, they had them before the end of the year. And so the first quarter, so what do we do about those students if they still are lacking in the progress, and we see it the first quarter?
So we're very lucky right now in that there's a big push for MTSS, which I know you've heard those letters, and that all of our schools have those MTSS teams in place. So all of our students, whether they were invited to summer reading camp or not, but especially those students that if they, when we take that fall MAP test and we start, we take the FSS and we take so many different assessments that we have all of these data points in place that the MTSS teams can start immediately checking for progress, and those students can raise those red flags, and that we can start to pinpoint areas of concern, and the MTSS team can start problem solving and looking for intervention. So all of our schools also have intervention teams in place to start providing those interventions. Obviously, we would prefer that they come to summer reading camp. That's 5 weeks of extra intervention. Even if they weren't up for retention, it could give them that extra boost. We see kids who come in second grade that don't need to come in third grade, and that's the whole plan. That's what intervention is for, is to get them out of needing intervention. We always joke and say our intervention teacher's job is to work themselves out of having a job. And so, but we will, yes, immediately start tracking those students, even the ones that do come to summer reading camp, because we're not naive to think that 5 weeks is gonna solve all the world's problems. So yeah, all of our students, we start tracking immediately, especially after that first MAP test.
Okay, and at the beginning of that end of the first quarter, I can't tell, I will remember, I'll write it down, but I hope I remember to ask you if you could give us just a little short snippet as to what you all are seeing. And Ravenat is working with those that basically didn't come or did come. Are they continuing to grow, etc.? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of questions kind of along the same line there. So My view of this, looking at 25 versus 26 summer programs, improve the number of kids who actually met the objective of this, and that's to get up to the reading score of 186 or above. And that's good. For those that did participate, I know you don't have any data on 26, but in looking back in 25, were they at a point where they were so deficient going into the reading program that expecting them to get there was unrealistic? Or do we learn anything from that? Because the objective here, although I love all the pictures and the fun and everything else and making it a good learning experience, at the end of the day, the goal of this extra program is to get them up to that level. And now we have state law to deal with on that. Do you have any insight on that? And if you need to go back and look at things or whatever, I certainly understand.
One of the good things is that through this, when students return back in the fall, it does give those MTSS teams that extra 5 weeks of data so that they're not having to wait for 6 more weeks. You know, a lot of MTSS, it's the cycle of 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. They can use the data that's collected over the summer to really hit the ground running, and they can say, okay, even with this extra 5 weeks, they're still scoring way below, you know, this score. It can kind of fast forward some of the processes that need to happen in order to help that student get the interventions they need or maybe move to an evaluation. And so sometimes that's what we see is that if the deficiency is so large, there's, you know, 5 weeks of instruction may not be the answer, but it's not for naught because they can get enough data and they're getting that intervention that it shows the MTSS team that even with small class sizes, targeted instruction, they did reading all day, they're still not making this progress. It gives the MTSS team that extra glimpse into that there probably is a deficiency there beyond just, you know, we're struggling to read. They might need to move to an evaluation.
And I would just like to say thank you, Jessica. You do a great job, and also with Katie of trying to put this on. Going back to that progress monitoring you just talked about, that is huge because it's kind of that 4x4 model, or she said 6 weeks. And what I mean by that, you're doing it 4 times for 4 weeks, that intervention. And if it doesn't work, and as Jessica just said, maybe that's where the student then needs to go for an evaluation. There could be a processing disorder, some issue there. And so I think that's why it's real important that they do come. And if they don't, then, you know, it doesn't, we have to kind of start all over again because sometimes you have that summer slide is what they talk about. But great questions from both.
I also think it's great because, like, a lot of kids have the learning loss during the summer. So even if they're not necessarily going to make progress, they're not going to regress further. So you're not going into the new school year necessarily with that summer regression you see on top of the deficit. So I do think there's a benefit to participating regardless. So I do appreciate it. Thank you for the update.
Yeah, there's true research behind that summer slide. So you're correct that even if they weren't, you know, needing to make a lot of progress, it is preventing that summer slide.
Any other questions? But great job, great information, and appreciate you and your team. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
The next slide up here that you have kind of about programming that's going on, you know, you think about the summer and it's kind of a time we slow down, we don't slow down, and talking about some of our curriculum and some of the interventions. You see this chart kind of shows you with our interventionists, you can see what they're working on, elementary ELA curriculum writing. And those are interventionists there, Anderson, Knox, and Alexander. And those are the number of teachers that participated in our English language arts curriculum writing. And so trying to line all of our standards up to the state standards and making sure they have meaningful experiences. And so trying to make sure that we have all the pacing guides, all of those things that are completed, and have all these documentation so that when somebody comes as a new teacher, they have those documents. That's one thing I think that really sets DD2 apart. You know, if you're coming in, you're giving these documents, and then teachers actually have a role into putting into the lesson planning and the curriculum writing. And so they have all that information to be very successful when they start the new school year. And so that's one thing that I think we pride ourselves. I know Mrs. Barker and the team do a really excellent job of trying to make sure if we need to revisit some of the things, just like the credit quarter recovery that we talked about, making that more rigorous, bringing that back to teachers, bringing it back, and making sure that it is rigorous and it's doing what we need it to do. So you can kind of just see the number of subjects that we are doing writing in. You can see the number of teachers that helped in creating this content. And so, again, we're always looking at trying to improve our curriculum and to make sure we're meeting those state standards. So you can see that. So any questions that we may be able to answer on that? Okay. Moving on. So one thing we kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about, getting ready for school to start the school year. We're only a few weeks away. And if you look here, our personnel department has been working hard along with our principals trying to fill vacancies. Also, our classified staff of, our directors are working hard to try to fill. And so you can kind of see where our fill rates are right now. We have 14 certified vacancies right now throughout the district, 26 vacancies for classified, and you can see what those are. But again, we only have 2 vacancies for elementary school right now, 4 vacancies for secondary, and then we have 8 vacancies for special education. And so these have probably already changed. This is when we did this presentation. They've already changed. I know Scott was on the phone when we went over this again today, and they've kind of already changed again. And so we should be really, really well staffed this year come start of school. So we're excited about that. Moving on.
Before you move on.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Let me just say, I happened to be staying this summer in a hotel where the district staff, senior staff were presenting, and Scott saw me, so he invited me to come and see their presentation. I want you to know who was the guy you were dressed up as? Franklin. Ben Franklin. And it was such a great presentation, and I was so proud of DD2. All the others did a great job, but DD2, we showed out dressed up and did all of that. And the presentation, the information that was shared was so good. And that's why we had these low numbers, because you all actually worked the system in order to get those vacancies filled in. So I want to say thank you, kudos to you. And I learned a lot from the other district that basically presented as well. So I'll be talking to our fellow folks. But anyway, good job. Thanks for representing us so well.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. About the Benjamin. So basically, we may not be able to pay the most, but we have a lot of other things to do. And Scott he brought back a lot of the past, talking about Ben Franklin and about the Benjamins. So the team, they did a great job presenting. And again, you can see why we have so few vacancies right now. And so,
I got a $100 bill. I can't spend it, but I do have one. Thank you.
Moving on, transportation update. This is always one we're looking at. I know Steve Shope was looking at. Right now, we have the total number of routes, 156. We have full-time drivers, 161, which includes 5 bench drivers. So we are kind of fully staffed right now. But that could change. And we do have 15 part-time subs. And so, we're really real thankful for what Steve's been able to do. And so right now, we look pretty good, but when the start of the school year, some things come up, and we've had a lot that we could have different numbers, but as of right now, we're doing pretty good. So kudos to Steve and his team.
I did have a question. So one of the questions I keep getting asked with our new bell schedule is, are we certain that we're well-staffed enough and transportation is good? Like, what makes it different this year from previous years? We've tried to adjust the bell schedule back 2 weeks in, end up readjusting. Just any insight you can bring, context, staffing, information. What's
absolutely.
different?
And I think when we were doing this, I think one time the total number of routes, we had 145. And I remember one high school principal that was really upset that the buses weren't on time. And now he is actually here at the district office and understands there's a little bit more to transportation. And won't mention his name. But anyway, the other thing that's really helped us is the new road. The Berlin G has helped us a lot when we're talking about the flow of traffic and getting there. And so that has helped tremendously, and now with the number of drivers. Again, we are trying to hopefully capture back more minutes, so that will hopefully impact us more academically. And so we are really excited. We're optimistic about this, providing hopefully all these drivers come back. We have the sub-drivers. And again, last year we had an incident where we had a driver was at an event and had an accident, and he was off the whole year. And we thought we were going to have all of our bus drivers, fully staffed. So things like that do happen. But the Berlin G has helped a lot with a lot of that, and so we're very optimistic. Now, at one time, we used to have 9 o'clock start times for high schools, and we had to bump it back to 9:30 because of transportation. But with the number of drivers, the Berlin G, we've added 15. We didn't go the full 30 minutes because we're just trying to see if this 15 minutes will work, be able to do that. So the high schools were changed, and then we added 5 minutes back into, or 15 minutes back into our middle school as well, and so we're excited about that. I know Mrs. Barker has worked with our middle school principals and adding that time back, and so now we're adding time back in the high school schedule, so your third and fourth periods are going to be more, with your first and second, which we're very, very excited about.
I know a lot of teachers were excited to have that, like high school teachers, to have that first and second
Yes.
block balanced with the third and fourth block, so I know that's really good. So.
Yeah, so we are. Great questions. We are optimistic. And
I'm going to go on a little tangent and say, be nice to the district the first week or two. Always expect that there's always going to be delays, and that doesn't mean that it's not working. But I always know that there's the first week or two of school, everybody's figuring out their routes where they're supposed to be. So maybe give us a week or two before you make your judgment.
Well, and you make a great point because, your first routes are your elementary students. And so that first week, your elementary students, you're trying to get on the buses. They're trying to make sure they're getting on the right bus, who's the car rider, who's not. And so if they don't get out within a 5 or 10 minutes and they're late 20 minutes, it trickles down. And so it delays down to the middle school, and then the middle school delays to the high school. And so next, the poor high school. And I remember that one principal, again, that was frustrating, that was out there till about, 5 o'clock. And so, again, we had to do some double backs on some of those things. And so.
Can you tell us who that principal is?
No, he's somewhere out there in the audience. But again, to be very frank, we're really hoping we get those minutes back, and again, that's going to help academically as well. So kudos. I know Mr. Farrell's been working with Mr. Shope and his team, and I know they've been doing a lot of different with routing, the routing software that we have, trying to make sure we're the most efficient as we are. And so that's why we need people to register as soon as they can, because then that way that helps us. So when somebody does register late, then that can put a delay into the bus schedule as well, because they're trying to figure out where to put that child on the bus, and if we're scrambling on there at the last minute. Because a lot of drivers will try to go out and see the routes ahead of time, but if they don't get people don't register early. So again, if we can have parents, again, make sure they register early, that helps, again, with that
When
first
is
week.
that closed, and when should you register by? Because that is the other question I've seen on the internet today. When is registration? When
Registration's
should you get
coming up
in?
here. Facts and fees are coming up here really soon, the 23rd.
So register as soon as possible.
Yes. The 23rd is facts and fees. So for those people that want to come in, individually and in person, they can do that. So, yep. Great questions. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. This is an item we used to do here called the State of the District. And one thing we want to do a little bit different tonight is we want to call it a year in review. And so I kind of tasked Mr. Bohannon and we're with our team, and we kind of came up with some ideas to put together. And this kind of mimics what we put together as our board goals as well. And so Mr. Bohannon, with the help of all of our directors and team, has kind of put all this information together to make sense of this. And he's done a phenomenal job. And tonight he's going to report to this. You should have this on your desk there, in your table, or in your binder, and you can see what he's kind of go through. But it has a lot of great things that have highlighted what we've done this year in the district. A lot of great things have taken place. Obviously, what we've done has been great. Can we do better? Absolutely. But again, this kind of just signifies all the great things that have taken place this year and where we're at and kind of where we're going. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Bohannon.
Mr. Dory, you said all the things already. I got nothing left to say. But to what Mr. Dory said, this was his brainchild, and it came out of that State of the District. It came out of If you remember, we would have those maybe at the beginning of January, and it didn't feel authentic. It was a mid-year review, and we don't do anything here from January to December. We're on a school year calendar, obviously, and so we wanted something, we felt like a wrap-up of the year was going to be a better way to do that, and something that you could hold, because if you missed out on that State of the District, if you weren't there for that 1 hour, well, it was gone. And generally, people weren't going to go back and watch it. We wanted something tangible. We know our audience and our community, they like things that they can put their hands on, right? Not everybody has gone into the digital age. And so this started with wanting a print document, which you all have copies of now, these first proofs. So that's how it came about. And so how did we start? We started looking at examples of other school districts, other similar documents to gain things that we liked and what we didn't like, some of which are extremely long. It would be 100+ pages and read like an organizational chart, which is fine, but again, it didn't feel authentic to what we do with everyone working together toward the similar goals. It didn't feel right to compartmentalize by department the efforts of each person in the district. And so as you look through this table of contents, as you look through your hand copy, you'll see more broad themes. I'll give you an example. Community Relations, my office runs the Teacher of the Year ceremony. You won't find a page in this book that says community relations. You will find a section that's investing in people. And so inside of that, you'll find recognition events for our staff. Inside of that, you'll find our admin cohorts, so that involve Ms. Barker's group. Inside of that, you'll find learning by design, where we do our leadership development and staff development. So things like that, we pick broader categories we thought would be easier to digest. And then we started with our executive cabinet, as we always do, and then they reached down to their directors and assistant directors for the information that would eventually become this document. And Mr. Doherty said it already, those board goals. We use those as kind of rails. We could make several books about our teams and our schools and the accomplishments and great things that they do. We had to put rails on it. And so the board goals really helped us align what we were making and prioritize. And so I'm just giving you an idea. Again, there are only about 12 of these that exist in hard copy form right now. We wanted you to see them before anyone else did. We will move forward in having them printed. We will move forward in then making it a digital resource that is available to everyone on the website. It'll be the kind of thing that's scrolling in the lobby on the big TV. But if you'll just take a look, so obviously you open that book up and you're going to get our at a glance. These are the largest pictures. We are the best place to work in the town. We are a Purple Star School District, etc. We've got student achievement, and I will tell you this book is so hot off the presses that the top picture on that student achievement is the esports kids that we just recognized tonight. So when I say this is hot off the press, I mean it literally. And then, of course, we've got staff recognition. Moving on, just examples again of some of the spreads. We're at 56 pages now that are covering a whole host of topics. Our award-winning fine and performing arts programs. There we talked about earlier our leadership development that outlines our admin cohorts and how we're growing those leaders inside, with a great highlight that 4 of those cohort members are now building principals in the upcoming year. So great things to highlight. Again, using things like this can be used as a recruitment tool, things that Scott and his team are going to be able to have. You'll see on the bottom there, Building for Tomorrow, our referendum projects. We've done an incredible amount of work this year. And again, just a sampling, and moving into how we're all stronger together. This is talking about the community partnerships that we work on, the community engagement. We've got big Principal for a Day there, Gary Brewer down there with Ms. Booten on Principal for a Day. And then Partners in Learning, of course, the Educational Foundation, and the great work that they do to support everyone. Again, this is just a taste. You guys are seeing the first look. If you have any questions, we can talk about it now. You might want to just take it and digest it a little bit, and we can come back and chat about it more before we do that large printing. Because that's the next step, is where do we go with this? We obviously, the partners that we have in this community, both business partners and governmental partners, are going to want copies of this. We're going to want them to have hard copies of this. Anyone that's going to have a nice thing to say about DD2, this is a great thing to put in their hand to tip the scale if they were on the edge, which they shouldn't be. But if you have anything now, we can talk about it now. Mr. Doherty can answer questions, or I can answer questions.
And I don't have a lot, and no questions. I just want to tell you, I love this. This is amazing, and being able to tangibly feel and see kind of what we're doing as a district So that was going to be my only question. Where do we go with it? You know, I think obviously the chamber type stuff, all your different, you know, community organizations, the visitor center. I think it's probably a fantastic place to, the chamber, the visitor center, the same thing. But then also on the recruiting side, I think there's a big play for something like this to put in the hands of prospective candidates for our district. I think is a good thing. So again, so I look forward to seeing this all around the community, and great job. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to our next item is kind of an update on our educational sales tax update and just where we're at and where we're going. And so Dorchester County will determine the revenue split, the number of years on the educational sales tax. June 22nd, we did pass a resolution regarding our project list. July 6th, DD4 presented their project list to the county council in St. George. The county council has invited us as a workshop for DD2 and DD4 to be part of this educational sales tax kind of a workshop this Thursday. And then on July 20th, we will present our project list to the county council in Somerville. Again, when we passed our project list, on the next page is that project list was basically could be used for a 70-30 split, whatever split that they decide, but will determine the scope and depth is what's going to be determined whether or not how much, what that split in the years is going to look like, because that'll determine the amount of dollars that we can then use for capital to help put toward our buildings. And so you can see with a lot of those projects, there's a lot of roofs, there's a lot of HVAC, a lot of flooring and lighting. And so those are the big items, but again, it just determines whether or not what that split's going to be like in those years. And so I kind of leave this up for the board for any other discussion or questions.
Not to beat a dead horse, but there's a book out there. It's actually more fun than you know. The fact of the matter is we have no idea how much revenue might be available. So we put together a project list. It's not a comprehensive project list. It does not address all of our needs. But I'm very interested in attending the workshop on Thursday to understand what those who actually control what revenue we get for capital projects have to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you could just very, very high level descriptive, what is the next step? So we passed our resolution with our list. We're going to sit down and meet. Who's deciding what? Like who's deciding the split? How does the resolution ultimately become a ballot option? What does that look like? Just very high level, like
Right.
A, B, C, D. Next.
Well, once they do this and we present our list, then I guess then both districts have already presented. And so then the county has to determine what that split is going to be like. Then they are asking if we need to put, prices on our projects, because right now we can't put a price tag on our projects because we don't know what those dollars are going to be. And so I believe it has to be filed, by August 15th, I believe, for this to go even further to be pushed on the ballot. So
When you say split, you're talking about we share tax revenue in this county with DD4. So I understand
That
this,
is
but
correct.
I want the public to
Yeah.
understand we share revenue in this county with DD4. So it would be a split of how much of that penny goes to DD2 versus DD4, as well as 10% is in law towards our school debt, as well as the county council determines the amount of years that a penny sales tax could go in place for. Does that capture that correctly?
yes, Ms. Bates, you're exactly right. Thank you.
And then so, once they decide the split and the amount of years after our workshop, what would the next steps look like, and what could the public look for?
Yeah, I guess what the public would look for would be our presentation that we would have to do on the 20th if they determine what that split's going to be. If they don't determine what that split's going to be, they're going to get this exact same list, probably also a list of our current referendum, what we've done. And this is going to help get us caught up. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all, because we're behind. As Mr. Lee said, there's a comprehensive list that we could go way further along here, but we just do not know the amount of dollars that we're going to get toward this. And again, that's out of our control, as Mr. Lee said again. Those are the things that we just don't know. So I guess my next question would be for them is if they decide on the split with both DD2 and DD4, then once they decide and tell us what that split is going to be, and then it would then go to the ballot. We have to approve it on the 5th, by the 15th.
So the county would have to decide they would like to move forward with it
Correct.
based on all of our discussions with one
Yes.
another, probably in this workshop, I'm guessing. And then after that, the public would then have an opportunity to vote whether or not to support it.
Correct. And that would be in November, after the 15th, then our public would have the opportunity to.
Perfect, I
Voice their
appreciate you.
opinion. No,
I
thank you.
I know it's like a lot of different steps, so I want to make sure everybody understands where we are, what's next, and potentially how it comes to be, if that's something that we
Right.
decided to move forward with as 3 governing entities, ultimately under one, sort of.
Correct.
Two
That's
two
about-
other things I'd like to add to that. The county will also determine the term of any potential sales tax. And to be very specific, this is a 1%, not a penny. Okay? And math matters. So whatever the county decides they want to go forward with, should they choose to do so, I guess we're going to come back on the 20th and try and give them a better list of projects. Is that the intent?
Yeah, the goal is to kind of go over these projects and also kind of, what we've already accomplished a little bit, tell our story, because we have been able to, with the 2024 referendum, what we have accomplished already. And then these are going to be on top of that. What people don't realize is this is going to help us, this next wave with the educational sales tax is going to help us hopefully kind of get caught up. We're not caught up yet, not with this 24 referendum. We still have a long way to go.
And I just want to highlight and/or ask the question, you can reiterate, we are always exploring options for capital and operational funds, whether that's impact fees, penny. We're always looking at what our options are, so.
Absolutely, because when you're looking at your capital needs, it really, if you're doing a 3-pronged approach, you would say your referendum, your 8% dollars, and then obviously, the impact fees. We've done an impact fee study, and that would be part of that as well. Because again, when these new developments come in, we don't want to redistrict. We saw what we had to do this year in redistrict. It'd be great if there were some dollars that would help us toward a new school. And so those are all part of those 3-pronged approaches, all part of helping us maintain facilities and also if we need to add facilities due to growth in certain areas.
That's all I have, thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'll move on. Our next project or our next item on the agenda is our facilities report, and you're going to hear about our referendum. So I'll have Mr. Tony Souls and Jeff Smith come on up, and they're going to talk about our status on some of our projects. It's always great to hear. So thank you, Tony, and thank you, Jeff.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Mr. Doherty. Elementary school, the ponds, we're still waiting property conveyance out there. I do know that they are making great progress on phase 10, and hopefully they'll get wrapped up sooner than later and get that recordation done so we can have the conveyance taken care of. Back here behind us at Somerville Elementary, we're all but done. We've got the LLR that came today to finalize the elevator. We got a sticker in the elevator now that says we can operate. The only thing we are waiting on is the sod is coming in on Thursday. We're going to be putting sod down and waiting for the final inspection date from the Office of State Fire Marshal. And once that is done, we're open for business. If you walk through there right now, you would think we were already open for business because it's complete, with the exception of a little bit of mud around, but we're going to take care of that this week. Somerville High School gym, we're starting that this week. We've got the trailer coming in to the general contractor, Thompson Turner. They're going to be bringing their project trailer in this week. We're going to start some construction and fencing around the project area. We got that area cleared out last couple weeks. We're ready to start on that. And the next thing would be the Ashley Ridge High School. That area, the fine arts room or the band room, and that area with the new classrooms, practice rooms, ensemble rooms, and the new weight room. All that is in play right now. We have a temporary occupancy for that from the state, so we're utilizing that space now. The old weight room, which is what we're calling Area C, they're getting that completed this week. They're doing some finish work, dropping ceiling tiles, and when they get that area completed, we will then have the final inspection for the project in its entirety, so it's just a one visit from the Office of State Fire Marshal and OSF. The car rider loop upgrade behind Ashley Ridge goes all the way around. That's 4,000 linear feet of additional car rider stacking we can do to help achieve us to get most of the traffic off of 165. They did the initial cut. They got the proof roll done last week. They put all the material that we had reserved from the initial cut. They got that down last week, and then the rains came. So we're taking a time out. We don't want to do anything right now to tear up what we've got going on. So hopefully by the end of this week, we'll be dried out. We just need to bring that up another 1.5 inches, then we can pave. So hopefully by next week, we'll be talking about putting some prime coat down and getting some pavement on the ground out there. We will have that open for the first week of school, though. Fort Dorchester High School classroom addition, we're just waiting for the contract to be executed on that. I think contractually we have a start date of October 1st. As soon as we get the contract executed, though, we can go ahead and start on that. The Knightsville Elementary School campus upgrades, the additions over there and everything. We had a meeting this morning with the SCDOT, Office of School Operations, and we discussed we're taking most of the traffic off of Orangeburg Road because we know they're going to widen Orangeburg Road. So we're going to make that area, and the new right-of-way is going to be tight. We know that because they're building a big road through there. So we're taking everything there and putting it on Devon Road for our buses, Cotton Hill Road for our car riders. So there's going to be some things we may have to do off-site. We talked about that this morning. We don't know yet. We're going to go ahead and prepare for that. I'd rather be prepared for it now than be 3 weeks from opening and somebody say, hey, we need to widen a road somewhere or widen the throat on a road. So we want to go ahead and talk about all the options for that. And lastly, I want to talk about the projects out at Oak Brook. Oak Brook Middle and the Oak Brook Elementary School additions. Those additions are complete. We've got the third-party inspections completed. I think there's a little piece of sidewalk we have to put in this week as soon as the rain gives us a chance. We are installing, we are waiting for the permits for the BDA installation. And that has to be approved by the Office of State Fire Marshal. And as soon as we get that permit done, we're going to go ahead and get that BDA in. I have conversations started with the local fire marshal, OSF, and our architect. We're going to get together this week and discuss what opportunities we have that we can get our students in there temporarily. The buildings are safe. I mean, all the life safety systems are in place with the exception of the BDA. The campus has not had a BDA since it was first built in the 80s or whenever it was built. I think it was the 80s. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. BDA is a bidirectional antenna. Here's another one for you. ECRES, Emergency Responder Communication Enhancement System. So I think that's right. But anyway, so all that is an antenna that they have to put inside the building so that in the case that the first responders get there and they use their radios, they would be able to communicate with the rest of the county. So it's just it's an antenna enhancement system is what it is. It's there was some poor reception in some areas around the campus. We decided a couple of years ago to go ahead and do that. We did allocate the money this past year for that. It was not in our plans to put it in when we went right now because we already had some construction going on. Unbeknownst to us, it became a necessity to get these things open. So it didn't get caught in the review process. It was reviewed by LLR, reviewed by Office of School Facilities, reviewed by architects. Everything was going along great until we can't get it inspected until we get a BDA in. But we're working on a temporary occupancy for that. So hopefully we'll know something by the end of this week on that. And the bus maintenance facility is going great out there. That picture is like a week and a half old. They've already got the roof and the sides on it. And the masonry is going to go in this week. And hopefully by the end of August, we'll have our mechanics working out of that building out there instead of out there in the elements. Any questions about any of that?
My only question is, at the end of summer, maybe right before school starts, could we maybe set up something with the board to come visit some of these ones that were finished and finalized?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Great work.
Good evening. It's definitely hot outside. So hot that our roofers are having trouble doing their work, and even our folks doing like the spray coating on a lot of our exterior envelope, they're having to like postpone work because of the heat. So that's been like something we haven't really dealt with a lot here. So it's exceptionally hot. I promise I'm going to get a haircut before the next board meeting. I just haven't have time. So just little updates. Fort Dorchester Elementary, all units are in place. We're just now in the process of having our controls hooked up for all those HVAC units. Don't foresee any issues with those units starting up and being ready for school. Windsor Hill, it's so hot once again that they are working midnight or about 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. to install those units because it's 20 degrees cooler, and they're having to take all those units down. I will mention something because Mr. Dortru's mentioned about the sales tax and referendum. So when we say we're replacing HVAC at schools, we're replacing one for one. We're not going out there and like redesigning the systems with modern technology or modern HVAC theory, so to speak. We're basically just taking the existing units and putting them in. So Somerville High School has what we call scholar units, which they mount on the wall, they're inside the classroom, they're obtrusive, they take up space in your room. But we're gonna go back with the same thing because that's gonna cost us like $6.5 million. If we wanted to do something that's, probably more modern than what you would do in a new school if you built it, you're probably looking at like $14 or $15 million. So when we talk about the list of exhaustive things to do, like some of the stuff we're looking at is not even dreaming about that kind of an upgrade. We're just trying to keep things moving. Those units at Somerville are manufactured in 1996. So, they've been there since the renovation in 96, 97. So they're definitely past due. But William Reeves, another school that's got a lot of heartburn right now, but all the units are installed, they're in place. Now they're just doing startups where they put the Freon in and get them started up for the first time. So that process is ongoing. Expect to have all that done by the 31st. And they'll be doing testing and balancing next week, so that gets everything flowing properly. Oakbrook Elementary, same boat, same company doing both William Reeves and Oakbrook, their train installations. So they've got the bulk of the units in place, and now they're just going back, tidying up the ceiling grids where they had to put them in the ceiling and starting up the units. Control vendors on site working on, getting controls linked up so that we can remotely control the units as well. Beach Hill, this is one of those things where it's really a chaos until the end. We've got the entire grid in place. We've had inspections on 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, and the kindergarten hallway. So we're just lacking 1st and 2nd, and hope to have that by Friday. And they're actively installing all the ceiling tile now. So basically with those projects, most of your work occurs and you have all the grid put in and you're doing everything above grid. Once they give you the approval for dropping the ceiling tiles, you're done. And it's just cleaning up afterwards. So it'll be a mad dash. We'll have a lot of extra staff on site to help, clean up and make sure we're ready for teachers. That'll be one that we're, right to the very wire though, and just like a few of these projects, Newington being one of them as well. I was over there this morning, and they've given us about half the project back, so we're cleaning that actively currently, and we'll be given the rest of the project on Wednesday. So by the end of this week, we should be in a pretty good place to start moving furniture back into the building and getting set back up for teachers to come back in 2 weeks roughly. And we did have a problem at Newington recently where we lost power the last week of summer reading program, and so we didn't lose power. It didn't affect Flowertown, so to speak, but Flowertown's network is all ran out of Newington, so we had to get a generator brought over to power the network hubs at Newington in order to get power at Flowertown so we could test. But we made it through and, spent about $70,000 on copper wire to fix a problem that occur from a storm. The span repurposing, so currently we've got 2 departments over at span now, 3rd one going in next week. And we should be, I think by end of August, middle of September, we'll have pretty much everybody that's going into span there. Focus right now is just finishing up everything for Elevate so they can get, operational and their teachers can come back. But special services is mostly moved over there. We still have to move the folks that are in 212 Joyce Lane over, and we're doing that after they finish up some testing that they have to do next week, or this week actually. So we're moving them the week of the 20th. And then we're currently doing some renovations upstairs for technology to move in, just, cleaning up some things, removing some things that were like built-in cabinetry and stuff that's not needed for the way we're converting it. So that's moving along. Right now we're working on signage for the campus to get that, at least temporary signage while we're getting new signage purchased. Sand Hill, all the portables, well, the 2 portables from Greg are in place. They have already started on tying in the sewer, the water. Biggest problem we've got there is just trying to get an electrical plan worked out. The power at the building does not have enough capacity to support those 2 trailers. So we have been working with an electrical engineer in Dominion, and we're going to have to run a new service line basically coming from the neighborhood over from a different transformer. But that's in progress, and so we're still expecting to meet an August 1st deadline of turning those trailers over to the school. So they'll be ready. We expect them to be ready for the first day of school, although I know Mr. Joy's got a backup plan in case they aren't. Gregg Middle School, if you get a chance to ride by, take a look. We're almost done with the courtyard. It's probably 85% done. They've got the shades to finish putting in, and then a little small area of turf. We were actually just trying to work around the other contractors who are working on the exterior envelope, so kind of 2 people working in the same area doesn't really always work as well, but they assure me they'll be wrapped up by the end of next week. They're currently also working at East Edisto Middle doing their courtyard, so that's coming along well, and that should be wrapped up by the end of the week as well. And then they're going to be doing a few other things for us at some other elementary school playgrounds. If you ever look outside of Main Street, you can see that all the new playground equipment's at Somerville Elementary installed, and Oak Brook is wrapping up this week as well, so they've got all new equipment. And let's see, Austin Middle School's had quite a bit of work done this summer as well. They've got all their new furniture in place. Roofing is complete, just waiting on completing a punch list. And their restrooms all the tile is in, all the toilets and sinks are in, and then the partitions are being delivered tomorrow. And so that'll start coming together, and they'll be wrapping that project up in the next week or 2. And the last thing that we're working on right now is Knightsville. We've got all the portables pretty much painted, touched up, and ready for students. So we are in the process of moving the classrooms over currently, and I think they'll be done by Thursday, moving all the teacher stuff and furniture into those trailers and having that campus pretty much ready so that whenever Mr. Souls is ready to start working on that new wing, there's nothing in his way. I probably missed about 10 things, but that's kind of a brief update.
I would just like to say thank you, Jeff. This is an exhausting list, so thank you. Great job. Thank you.
I got to take another vacation in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we had to tell, and Mr. Farrell had to tell Jeff, please put something on your email that says you will be gone, and email that to the principals, because Jeff will respond back to them. And so, and Jeff still does that. He is customer service 100% all the time, and his people can't even keep up with him. That is a true statement. But real thank you, Jeff, to your team, you, Tony, and also to our finance team for making sure keeping this going, because again, looking at our 8% dollars, as we said, referendum dollars, TIF dollars you have in there, those are all part of that, all these projects, and so they have done a phenomenal job. And I know some of our principals are saying, hey, can I get this done now? I have this project I want to, we're actually had to tell them no because of all the number of projects we have. But Jeff will find a way, though. He still will find a way. He'll tell them no now, but he will find a way. And so
we've got a good team, facilities department, and they always tell me to stop saying yes. And so I tell them just to keep finding a way to say yes. So,
and when they move those,
they do a great job.
They do, and just seeing the undertaking of moving those trailers from Gregg Middle School all the way out to Sand Hill.
And normally you would split them, but they didn't. They moved them whole.
They moved them whole, and so they had to stop traffic out there on 17A, and so to get those out there, and that was quite an undertaking. and taking a few tree limbs off out there as well. But they did a phenomenal job of getting those out there, and they're still in one piece. So thank you. You guys have done a phenomenal job. It's been a very, very hectic summer with, moving people to different facilities. And, as he said, on 212 Joyce Lane, that's technology. We were planning not to move them until later on, probably mid-year, but he thinks he can get it done before school starts. And so thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you to the finance team. So they're all working together to get that done. So please tell your team, great job.
Is it true that Tony drove one of the trailers and Jeff drove the other?
Yeah. I rode on the side.
He's on the side, yeah. Yeah, when we saw it, I was like, oh my goodness. I was coming back, I'm like, those are the trailers. And no, it was a huge undertaking. So they have done an outstanding job. So thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? And yeah, thank you. And our last item, I'll turn that over to Dr. Wimberly.
All right, board members, the student enrollment recommendations were included in our packet. Is everyone okay to proceed in open session? All right, then at this time, I would ask for a motion to approve the student enrollment recommendations as presented. Motion made by Ms. Powell, seconded by Mr. Farnsworth. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. All right, thank you, Mr. Doherty and team, for the great report. Appreciate all the great information. We will continue with our agenda. Next item is our public comments on non-agenda items. And this evening we have one, Mr. Jason Brockert.
Tonight, I'm just going to read a list of verifiable facts. Fact: you called Jason Brockert to the podium to speak for 3 minutes. Playing the part of Jason Brockert tonight is me. Fact: on February 6, 2026, I stood right outside this building at exactly 10:07 a.m. I announced on what would have been my son's 16th birthday, down to the minute, that I was suing DD2 for the wrongful death of my son, Julian Brockert, on May 23, 2024. Fact: this pro se lawsuit was in direct response to January 12, 2026, when you awarded Julian's former principal and violated my First Amendment right to speak, simply because what I needed to say was negative. Fact: that principal is no longer in DD2. Fact: in late 2025, following a board meeting, I was physically touched without my consent by a member of this board, which reminds me I need to file that report. Fact: on May 16th of 2025, several district leaders met with me and my wife to supposedly discuss improving policies after the death of our son, yet nothing changed until. Fact: on June 22nd, 2026, at this podium, I asked you not to rubber stamp the bullying policies, which you were finally updating. Fact: you voted to advance those policies, and I recall you saying that if there were still issues, that they could just be updated again. I can provide you with more suggestions, but I doubt you'll take them. Regardless, as a concerned citizen, I'm telling you that those policies need further revision and coordination. Fact: on April 25th, 2025, DD2 held a town hall. When I requested the audio of that meeting through a FOIA request, the district formally claimed that there was no recording. Fact: I have been given that missing recording, and I have since shared it publicly. It contains quite a lot of truth that you seem, in my opinion, to not want to remember or hear. Fact: I will continue to speak the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Fact: a few hours ago, pursuant to South Carolina Code of Laws 591960, I filed paperwork with the governor to have Board Chair Wimberly removed from their elected position for malfeasance and neglect of duty. Fact: the remaining 44 seconds, I yield to the silence that consumed my son. You know what? We're breaking the silence. I'll give you back the 10 seconds I stole from you in November of 2024. I'm still waiting for my minute 23 from January.
Thank you, Mr. Brockert. All right, board members, the next item on our agenda this evening is executive session. So at this time, I would ask for a motion to convene into executive session for receipt of legal advice regarding the educational sales tax.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Guthrie. Seconded by Ms. King. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. We are in executive session and we will return. I would ask for a motion to return to open session. Motion made by Mr. Lee, seconded by Mr. Guthrie. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. We are back in open session. At this time, we do not have any action from our executive session, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Ms. Bates, seconded by Ms. Powell. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we will call for the vote. Motion carries 7 in favor. We are adjourned.